Are you a small business owner, an artist, a maker who's always dreamed of having your products in retail stores? Well, I guess this video is for you because I'm going to be going over some of the ways in which you'll know when you're ready to be in retail stores. If you're new here, my name is Indy. I'm known as Doodles by Indy on Instagram and TikTok, and I run a small business called Doodles by Indy, and I sell stationery products. But before getting to see if you are ready to be in retail stores, let's talk a little bit about how you can get into retail stores. So there are two different ways you can get into it, one being consignment and then the other being into wholesale or in market. So starting off with consignment. So for consignment, this really means just like renting out space within a retail store. And this could be a actual retail store that sells multiple different merchandise and products, or it could be your local coffee shop or boba shop or plant shop. The options are endless within consignment shops. So for this option, it's typically free. You're kind of just putting your product into maybe their counter space where people are checking out, or maybe like a shelf within their branded merchandise if you're doing like a coffee or boba shop where they're selling branded products. However, I do know that for some consignment places, a lot of my friends did have to end up either paying a rent to rent out their space, or there's another option where the seller or the shop is asking for a commission or a fee to sell their product. So every sale that you make, you give them a percentage. So I recently tried the consignment option, and to be honest, there are some pros and cons. So for the one that I did, it was a commission off of every sale that I made. And to be honest, I didn't love that. I think ideally I would like it to be the free option, obviously, but I guess like in terms of like whether I wanted the rent space fee or just the sales commission, I would rather choose the commission fee. But I feel like for a lot of my products, it's not like super expensive or anything. A lot of my products are, stickers, keychains that are $10 at most. So it was quite a chunk to just give them a specific like percentage off of each sale. However, I did have my stuff there for about 6 months. And so if I have had to pay rent space each month to have my products there and only make like a couple of sales, I don't think that would have been necessarily worth it. So if you had that option of like having to pay rent space, you would have to really understand the demographic that's coming into this place and whether there is actually a lot of traffic who's going to buy your product. Because again, I don't think it'll be worth it if it's something that you have to like consistently pay for and not have a good return on. Another con is that for consignment stores, they don't necessarily owe you any reason to promote your product. Because at the end of the day, you're using their space to promote your own product. So you're going to be the one who has to promote your product to those who are local to the area of the retail store, saying that your products are there for sale. I know some places actually do promote your product, but I feel like it's not always a guarantee, especially because it's not their own product. But the pro to having consignment shop is it's an easy way to sell your product. A lot of retail stores love to support local, support small businesses, so they'll always want to kind of show your product, whether again it's on a counter space or a shelf. And now the other way of selling your products to retail store is through wholesale or in market. And so for this option, the retailer is buying your product up front and putting it into their store. So for this option, let's start off with some of the pros. The biggest pro is that you're getting the money up front because they are paying you the money for the products to put in their store, whereas consignment, you only get paid if someone buys your product. So for in-market, once you sell it to the retailer, that's all you have to do. The retailer kind of takes it from there and tries to sell your product. However, the con is it's actually really hard to get into retail stores. It's hard to convince a retailer to actually buy your product to have in their store. There's just going to be a lot of cold emailing, calling just to get your stuff in there, or to have someone actually give you the time of day. And that's just kind of similar to how you're getting people to your own website. You have to put in the work of networking, the social aspect of it all, just to get the customers to your website and for you to get your name to the retailer's like inbox or in front of their face. And for this option, I also feel like you have to really understand your own branding, what you're all about, what your products are, and whether your products will fit into said retailer space that you want to get into. Because, for example, if you sell a lot of Asian inspired pins like I do, and I want to get into like, I don't know, an antique store that sells like very dainty things, that might necessarily be the retailer that I want to aim towards, because I feel like it just doesn't really fit the vibe of what they're selling versus what I'm selling. So at the end of the day, you really have to figure out like, what's your why and why should they buy from you. But an easy way, or an easier way to get into retail stores and sell wholesale, is through Faire.com. And this isn't even like an ad for Faire.com. It's just something that I've used for the last few years and have found success in getting into retail stores and even into like my dream stores that I've always wanted to get into. And I actually have another video of like what to do and like how to get into retail stores through Faire.com in a different video. But briefly, Faire.com is kind of like a Etsy, but for retailers. Like, it's a marketplace where a lot of retailers go to support small businesses and buy in bulk rather than having to buy products one by one. Plus, with Faire.com, the retailers get kind of like a discount only because they're buying in bulk. So you really have to think about costs there as well, whether you can actually price your products at a certain price for retailers specifically to buy your products in bulk. So now that you kind of see the two different ways in which you can sell your products to retailers, let's get into like how you know when you're ready to sell to retailers. I think the first light bulb that goes off to know when you're actually ready is when your products have high demand. This means that you've tested your products, whether it's online or in markets. Customers have seen, they've used, they've wanted, they've bought your products before. It's a known fact that your products are selling and that people like it. And retailers love to buy things that other shoppers would want. Just think about it. Why would a retailer want to buy something that is just going to be sitting on their shelf, potentially marked down, and then they're going to have to sell it under profit? They could always test out your product, and that would be a nice thing for a retailer to do, but at the end of the day, they're going to want to play it safe. And from your side, when you're working with retailers, you're also going to have to buy things in bulk because the retailers are buying in larger quantities. So when you're starting your business or launching a new product, you're not necessarily going to buy hundreds and thousands of one item before testing it out. Probably going to buy only a few of the items and try and see if shoppers even like it before buying more of it, right? So that's the same deal with retailers. They're not going to buy a million products from you, or even like, let alone one, not knowing that shoppers like your product. And the second way of knowing whether you're ready for retailers is if you know you have enough inventory to sell to retailers. Because like I said before, retailers typically buy in bulk. So if you don't have the product, how are they going to buy from you? It's different from a Etsy or your website where shoppers are just buying one or two products at a time, whereas retailers are buying tens, 20s, hundreds at a time. So you always have to make sure that you are ready and have products on hand, or you can get them on hand as quickly as possible. Additionally, you're hoping that you're going to get more than just one retailer buying your product. You're going to hope for 2 or 3 or multiple different retailers. And even more so, you're hoping that these retailers are going to be repeat customers. So you're always going to have to make sure that you have products on hand for those repeat customers. That is, however, if you are hoping to maybe sunset some of these items or just not have them on your site any longer, then you can definitely just have markdowns or promotions to sell through the rest of your inventory and never have them again. But otherwise, you're gonna have to continuously make sure that you have enough inventory to sell to these retailers. I definitely learned my mistake with this when one of my dream retailers wanted to buy something from me and I didn't have enough inventory to sell to them. So they turned me down and went to someone else. So this is your sign to make sure that you have enough inventory to sell to retailers. And so the third way to know that you are ready to sell to retailers is knowing that you have the production to consistently make new inventory. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the other reason of making sure that you have enough inventory of the same product. But as an artist, there are two buckets of product. Your evergreen products, which are those that you consistently sell through. They're your top sellers, that they're stuff that people continuously buy. And then you have those new launches that you have probably in a certain cadence, whether it's seasonal or yearly. So retailers love to refresh their store. And that's just as if you want to refresh your website, your Etsy shop. They want to provide their shoppers with newness. Think about your own website. Like, you don't want to have the same things over and over again. And some of your most loyal customers probably have everything that you have ever made on your website. So you have to constantly make new things. And so just as a retailer, they also have to bring in new things for their shoppers to buy. So once you have that catalog of products that you want to sell to retailers, can you actually scale it? Can you continuously make these products over and over again? Because again, retailers love to buy in bulk. They're not just gonna buy one or two of your products. If you're someone who makes things by hand, can you make those things over and over again at large quantities at a reasonable time? Can you do so without burning out? Because unlike some of your custom orders where shoppers can wait that whole month before getting your product, a lot of retailers have an expectation of getting something within a week or two. They typically have a time window that they're trying to meet. For example, it's the holiday season. Some retailers buy products well before the holiday season or the new quarter starts. But there are some retailers who buy while the season is happening. That typically happens because maybe they sold out on a lot of stuff and they want to reorder or make a new purchase and they have to fill their shelf with something and they like your product. But if they can't get it at a certain time to really capitalize on this holiday moment where there's such high demand, then maybe they'll skip out on you. They're not going to wait for you to make these products and then wait for it to ship and wait for them to having to unpack it, tag things, put barcodes on it. There's a lot of behind the scenes as well as you making the product. So you're going to have to make sure that whatever product you sell for retailers, they're going to have to be scalable and they're going to have to get to the retailers quickly. Because the reality of it is, if you don't work fast enough, then you're going to miss out on an opportunity with this retailer. And then going back to kind of the refresh and the newness of the retailer, can you make new products at a specific cadence? Think about your clothes. You like to wear different clothes for different seasons. And just with retailers, they also are looking for new products all the time. I know this is very hard for artists because we have art block all the time and we can't rush art. I feel like sometimes inspiration and art just kind of comes at a random time. So can you continuously make new products, basically? For me, I typically have kind of the same art for different merchandise. So for a certain piece of art, I could have it as a sticker, or a print or a greeting card. And I kind of phase out the launches that way, where I reuse some of my old art from a sticker and then relaunch it as a greeting card. And that would be kind of my newness. And to go back to the first way of knowing whether your products are ready for retail, it's that I started my product as a sticker and I realized that a lot of shoppers love that design. I've sold hundreds of that design and I think it's ready for a different product. Hence, maybe a greeting card or whatever you think that the new product should be. And that's kind of how I work around the new launches kind of tactic of bringing newness, but at the same time, it's old stuff. And that way, I don't necessarily have to constantly make new things all the time and having to draw new things all the time. So, those are all the ways that I feel like are good indicators to know that you're ready to sell at retail. And so, hopefully, you checked all those boxes and you're ready for retail. But until next time, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to more videos like this.